Hello! I'm Kuda, and welcome to the finale of my series where I've been yapping about pride flags while designing characters based off their color palettes. Today we're looking at 10 different flags, all suggested by my lovely viewers, so let's hop right into it. We're starting off this finale with the Genderfluid Pride Flag. This flag was by far the most requested for this video, so it just felt right to start here. The Genderfluid Pride Flag was created in 2012 as a representation of the fluidity of gender identity and expression. It was created with the aim to be inclusive of the diverse experiences within the genderfluid community. As such, the colors symbolize different aspects of gender. The pink stripe represents femininity and female-leaning identities. The blue stripe represents masculinity and male-leaning identities. The purple stripe represents a combination of masculinity and femininity, reflecting fluidity between genders. The white stripe represents the lack of gender or a neutral gender. And the black stripe represents all genders or a combination of many genders. For my design, I took the same approach as I did for demigender, and I drew both ends of the spectrum. So basically, I drew the same character on a masculine and a feminine day. I started with the masculine version, and I'm not sure why, but I thought of a leather jacket first. So I gave them a black one with some purple accents and put a simple white t-shirt underneath. Then I decided the best place to put the blue was on some jeans, and I gave them medium-length hair that's half up in a bun. Originally, all of the hair was pink, but I didn't like how it looked with the rest of the design, so I gave them dark hair with pink tips instead. For the feminine version, I decided that they would wear their hair in two low buns, because I thought it would be cute. And then I gave them the same leather jacket, just tied around their waist this time to show off their shape a little more. And then I changed the pants to shorts, and based kind of on that punkish vibe from the masculine version, I decided to give them a striped long sleeve under a black t-shirt. The second flag I looked at for this video was the Demisexual Pride Flag. This flag was created in 2010, and it was inspired by the Asexual flag and as such features the same colors. However, it was created as a means of visibility for demisexual individuals specifically. It features a black arrow on the left pointing towards 3 horizontal lines. This black arrow represents asexuality in the broader ace spectrum as it symbolizes the lack of sexual attraction. The thick white stripe on the top of the flag represents sexuality or the presence of attraction, but only after forming a strong emotional connection. The thick gray stripe on the bottom represents gray asexuality and the gray ace community, and as such represents that gray area between allosexuals and asexuals. And finally, the thin purple stripe in the center is representative of the aspec community as a whole. For my design, I knew I wanted purple to be more of a small pop of color since it's the smallest section on the flag, so I designed a gray and white sweater with purple accents on it. Then when I was looking at it, I realized that the hood on the sweater kind of made a triangle on the chest, so I decided to give my character a black turtleneck to mimic the black arrow on the flag as well. And then from there, I just gave my character black hair, dark gray pants, and gray shoes, and I was done. The next flag from your suggestions is the MLM Gay Flag. This flag was created in 2019 to represent men who are attracted to other men while also being more inclusive to the broader spectrum of gender in general. It was inspired by and meant to be a counterpart to the existing 7-color lesbian pride flag, and as such it mirrors its design. The deep green stripe represents the MLM community as a whole. The teal stripe symbolizes the healing process that many MLM individuals have to go through due to discrimination and societal pressures. The light green stripe represents joy and positive emotions found in living authentically to oneself. The white stripe in the center acknowledges the presence and experiences of transgender men, non-binary individuals, and those who are gender non-conforming within the MLM community. The light blue stripe represents the love and affection shared between men, including both romantic and platonic love. The blue stripe represents courage and activism necessary for the MLM community to thrive and fight for acceptance. And the dark blue stripe represents diversity and inclusivity within the community. Now, I love the look and colors of this flag, but I did struggle a little bit coming up with this character design. I kinda had to power through coming up with like random ideas before eventually I landed on this really cutesy guy with light minty green hair and blue eyes. I gave him some cute blue overalls and a green striped t-shirt underneath, which left me with the darker blues and that medium green color for the rest. So I kinda just threw those around the design with some accessories, and then I was done. The next flag from your suggestions was the Genderqueer flag. This flag was created in 2011 with the purpose of visually representing the genderqueer community. This includes anyone who doesn't identify solely as male or female. The colors the creator chose for the flag represent the diverse identities that can be found within the community. The lavender stripe is meant to be read as a combination of the traditional pink and blue associated with femininity and masculinity. As such, this stripe is representative of androgyny and queer identities as a whole. The white stripe in the center symbolizes agender or gender-neutral identities within the community, representing those who don't identify with any gender or whose gender is undefined. The chartreuse stripe is the inverse color of lavender, and it represents those who don't identify as male nor female, or those who see their gender as fluid and not confined to the traditional binary. When looking at the colors of this flag, my brain immediately went to a long, high-waisted chartreuse skirt. I'm not sure why it went there first, but I ran with the idea anyway. So she has a skirt with a lavender sweater tucked into it. I also gave my character darker skin because I thought it complemented the flag's colors pretty well, and then I decided to give them dark brown hair, which I put into a long wavy ponytail. I ended up using the white from the flag as more of an accent on the design, so the sweater has white detailing and they have a white belt and some white shoes. And honestly, I really like the design I came up with for this one. I think they're very pretty. I just wish I would have included more white, but I'm still happy with it. The next flag is the Bigender Pride Flag. Now, one of you actually mentioned that the real flag was the one that included yellow, and I am so glad that you told me this, because I didn't know about the whole controversy with the original Bigender flag, so thank you so much for letting me know, because I would have hated learning about that after the fact, so just thank you. So this is the flag we're using for this video. This flag was created in 2014 and features 5 horizontal stripes. The pink stripe represents femininity and those who identify as partially female. The blue stripe represents the opposite, aka masculinity and those who identify as partially male. The yellow stripe represents those who identify as partially non-binary. The white stripe represents a lack of gender, or those who are partially agender. And the purple stripe is a combination of pink and blue, and as such represents those that are both male and female. I do quite like the colors of this flag, but I found that they were very hard to work with. The majority of them have very similar tones, and I found that it was hard to find good contrast in my design, and all of the colors kind of compete with one another, so it was very difficult. I was kind of just slapping colors all over the place until I eventually found a combination that looked okay. So this character ended up with blonde hair, a pink tank top with a white heart on it, and some blue jeans with a purple sweater thrown over the whole ensemble. I'm not not really sure how I feel about this one. Like, I struggled so hard on it, and I feel like it looks okay, but I'm not a big fan of it. It's a bit frustrating because this was one of the more asked for flags, and I feel like I didn't really deliver on it very well. But I do promise you guys, I tried my very best, so I really hope that everyone that wanted to see the Bigender flag likes the character regardless. The next flag is the Aromantic flag. This flag was designed in 2014 with the intention of acting as a visual representation of the entire Aromantic umbrella. It features 5 horizontal stripes. The dark green stripe represents aromanticism itself. The creator actually chose green because it's the opposite of red on the color wheel, and as red is the color most associated with romantic love, the use of green was meant to symbolize that aromantic individuals experience little to no romantic attraction. The next stripe on the flag, the light green, symbolizes the aromantic spectrum. This stripe acknowledges the diverse range of experiences and identities within the aromantic community. The central white stripe represents platonic love, aesthetic attraction, and queer platonic relationships, which are very important connections for many aromantic individuals. The gray stripe represents the gray aromantic and demi-romantic individuals, who experience romantic attraction under certain circumstances or in limited ways. And finally, the black stripe represents the sexual orientation spectrum, highlighting the fact that aromantic individuals can have any sexual orientation. For my design, I decided to give my character a gray skirt with a light green quarter sleeve over the top. And then I just gave her some black leggings and dark gray boots. And as I was looking at the outfit as a whole, I decided on a whim to put a broken heart on the shirt, because I just thought it would be a funny little detail. And that decision ended up deciding the entire aesthetic of this character. Because from there, I gave her long black hair with the front strands colored a dark green, and then I threw on a couple of black bracelets and a choker. And honestly, I am so glad that that's the aesthetic I ended up going with, because I had so much fun making this character, and this is probably one of my favorites in the entire series, so I hope you guys like it. The next flag from your suggestions is the Abrosexual flag. This flag was created in 2015 and features 5 horizontal stripes. Though the exact meanings of these 5 colors aren't definitively established by the creator, so people tend to interpret them in a couple of different ways. But for the purposes of today's video, I'm just going to share the 2 most widely known and accepted meanings behind them. The first interpretation suggests that the colors are meant to mimic a watermelon. This is because watermelon are 92% water, and thus it could be a silly little pun representing fluidity. The second common interpretation is that the colors shifting from green to white to red represent a transition between attractions. This is because abrosexuality describes fluid sexual orientation, where a person's sexual attraction and preferences change over time. So the shift from green down to red represents a shift from one sexual orientation to another, the white in the center representing the shift itself. But as I said, these are just the 2 most common interpretations, and there are a whole bunch more, so if you're curious or you just want to know, you should look it up, because it's actually really interesting. For my design, I was so excited, because I don't think I've ever seen this flag before, and it is so beautiful. I love the watermelon-esque colors, and they're pretty easy to work with, so overall the design process was just really fun and chill, and I had a great time. I ended up putting my character in a cutesy pink skirt with dark pink accents, and then I gave her an open green over-the-shoulder top with a white halter neck underneath. I also immediately knew I wanted this character to have darker skin, because I just felt it in my bones that it would look nice with this color palette, and I was totally right. So I stuck to that and then decided on dark brown curly hair with box bangs and a cute little barrette. And honestly, this design is another of my favorites. I just think she turned out super cute, and her design is pretty unique compared to a lot of the other characters I've made for this series. So overall, I'm just really happy with it. The next flag I'm looking at today is the Agender Pride Flag. This flag was created in 2014 to raise visibility and reclaim identity for the agender community. It represents anyone who doesn't identify with gender or anyone whose identity is genderless. It features 7 horizontal stripes. The black and white stripes are representative of the absence of gender. The gray stripes represent those who are semi-genderless or existing between traditional gender categories. And the green stripe in the center represents all non-binary genders. The creator chose green because it's the inverse of purple, often a color associated with the mix of male and female genders. For this design, I gave my character a gray binding tank top with a black cold shoulder jacket over the top and some dark pants and boots. Then I decided that a short white wolf cut would look really nice with the aesthetic of the rest of the design, so I went ahead and did that. As for the green, I knew from the get-go that I wanted it to be very sparse since it's the smallest section on the flag. So I gave my character green eyes and then put green accents on the jacket, and those were the only little bits I added. I just wanted it to be a bit of an accent to the neutral color surrounding it. And after adding the green, I was done. So here is my agender character. The next flag is the Genderfaun flag. This flag was created in late 2017 as a complement to the existing Genderfae flag that was created earlier that year. It represents a gender identity where one's gender is fluid but never female or feminine leaning. There are 7 colors on the flag in total, but the creator avoided pink and red due to their common association with femininity. The orange stripe represents male-aligned identities and connection to masculinity. The yellow stripe represents non-binary genders, or any gender outside the traditional gender binary. The cream stripe represents gender neutrality within the fluidity of the Genderfaun identity. The white stripe in the center represents the absence of gender. The sky blue stripe represents soft masculinity or demi-boy aligned experiences. The blue stripe represents masculine presenting identities and traditional masculinity. And finally, the purple stripe represents a mix of genders or androgynous experiences without including femininity. Now this is a gender identity that I've heard of, but I have never seen the flag before, and it is gorgeous. I was honestly super excited to make a character out of it, and I was really happy to discover that even though there are so many colors on this flag, it was pretty easy to work with because they're all pastels and they look good together. Now, gushing aside, I knew I wanted my character for this flag to be masculine because it's Genderfaun, not Genderfae. So based on that and the pastel palette I was working with, I ended up making a soft boy. The first thing I knew I wanted to include was a big light yellow cardigan. Then from there, I ended up giving them a teal shirt, some blue jeans, and some purple string-up boots. And that only left me with light orange for the hair, but it ended up looking perfect with the design, which I was really happy about. And then I was done. The last flag from your suggestions is the Asexual Pride Flag. This flag was created in 2010 with the aim to create a visual representation for the asexual community. It includes 4 horizontal stripes, each representative of the diverse asexual experience. The black stripe represents asexuality, encompassing the spectrum of individuals who experience little to no sexual attraction. The gray stripe signifies that gray area between sexual and asexual. This includes individuals who experience sexual attraction only rarely or only under specific circumstances. The white stripe represents non-asexual partners and allies. It's included in the flag to represent the broader spectrum of sexualities, and to emphasize inclusivity and support for those who may not identify as asexual, but are still part of the asexual community's support network. And the final, purple stripe, represents the asexual community as a whole. The first thing I knew for sure was that I wanted my asexual character to have one of those funny t-shirts that just says no, because it's just so ace-coded, so I just had to. And I ended up tying up the shirt to the side because I thought it looked cute. And then I thought some black pants and boots would look good, so I added those and then was left only with gray. So what I did was I made her hair gray with dark gray tips and then put it into a bun. And then at this point, I was looking at the design and it felt like it just needed something, so I ended up giving her black lipstick, a choker, and some bracelets, and I feel like it brought everything together and I really like how it turned out. Before I get on to the results, I wanted to point out something I found funny. So I noticed that the asexual and aromantic characters had similar vibes, which makes sense because the color palettes have very similar vibes. But the funny part was the contrast between the aro and ace characters versus the aro ace character. He's just so soft and bright, and they're just like bad girls, so it just kind of got me, made me chuckle a bit, so I don't know, I just wanted to share. But anyway, that was the last flag in this video. So today we looked at the Genderfluid, Demisexual, MLM Gay, Genderqueer, Bigender, Aromantic, Abrosexual, Agender, Genderfaun, and Asexual pride flags. This series has been such a blast, and I'm sad to see it go, but I'm also really happy with how it turned out, and I feel like this was a great way to wrap it up. So thank you all for your lovely suggestions for which flags I should include in this video. It was awesome being introduced to some new flags and identities and learning about them, and I'm just really glad I got to share that information with you all, because it was very fun for me. So I just hope that you had a good time and that maybe you learned something new or something interesting like I did. Anyway, that officially marks the end of this series, so let me know which character ended up being your favorite, and I'm gonna wrap this up here. Thank you guys so much for all the love and support recently on my channel and on this series. It really means a lot to me. And also thank you so much for watching this video, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye now!